It is week 5 of PFR on Lakeshore Public Television. Tonight, we get you ready for week 5 of the high school football season. And another week where a lot of games could go either way.
Yeah, really, a lot of balance. You know, last week we had a couple surprises. I was surprised with, the dominance of Valparaiso against Michigan City,
Right.
the shutout.
And-
I thought that Valpo would play well, but shutting out Michigan City is a big deal.
And Griffiths.
And Griffith played very well.
Yeah,
Crown Point's defense really came
right,
up.
right.
So
A lot of games going on to that final drive. I will have a look out for this week's high school football tomorrow night. All that coming up next on PFR.
Who is the dark afraid of? His name is Tim. When you report a power outage, Tim and lineman Lychem respond to the call. Text OUT to 444-111 to report an outage. With your cell phone, when the power is out, power is still in your hands. Support for PFR and PFR Scoreboard is provided by Geminis, partnering for the future.
Week 5 PFR on Lakeshore Public Television. We're ready to go. Get you rolling for another week of high school football. 3 undefeateds remain in Northwest Indiana, and we'll get you started, Wayne, as we always do, with a video look back of last week. Some of the top plays. We talked about some of the top surprises.
that's right.
Valpo was right there with the bounce back game against Michigan City in the rain. And weather was definitely a factor last week.
Yes, it was. For everybody, the weather was a factor.
Weather could be another factor again tomorrow night. Let's take a video look back at week 4 on PFR Rewind. All right, we wrap up week 4 as we check out some of the players of the week. Players of the week from last week in high school football. We saw him in the highlights.
Yes, we did.
The Whiting
Glasgow.
quarterback. Yep.
That's right. He just played very, very well. 4 touchdowns, and he threw, and he had 265 yards. And then your favorite player.
I'm a big 3-name guy. Okay, with Kane Vesey and
Now
Davion Irvin Poindexter.
Poindexter,
Oh, you gotta love
right.
that name. Just rolls off the tongue. 178 yards and 3 TDs.
And Danny Stanley had a good game for Munster against Andrean, 3 TDs. And then Lawrence for LaPorte. This is the second week in a row that he has played well. He had 2 TDs and 101 yards. But last week, if you remember, he had 10 for 10 passing. LaPorte is on a roll.
LaPorte is playing well. They've been getting better
Stay
every
out.
week, without a doubt. All right, defensive players of the week.
You got to start with Valparaiso shutout of Michigan City. I think that shocked everybody. Not necessarily that they won, but they shut out Michigan City's potent offense. Hanover Central did the same to River Forest. Timothy Johnson, Joe, from Morton, had 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 fumble recovery versus Hammond.
Great week. Colin Riley of Highland. We love the pick sixes.
Yes, we do.
He had one against Clark. And Daniel Murray, he saw on the rewind his
Yes,
fumble recovery
fumble.
before halftime. That changed the game, it changed the momentum for Andrean in their loss to Munster. Special teams players of the week.
Kyle Hurd from Gavitt returned the opening kickoff for a TD versus ECE. And then Ben Fredrich from Crown Point kicked a 31-yard field goal.
And Carl Stokes with a huge play for East Chicago with a big kickoff return touchdown in their come-from-behind win against Gavitt. Unknown players of the week, and I haven't heard of any of these folks, so that means they meet the criteria.
Well, from South Central here, Tyler Shireman, 2 TDs, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 blocked punt. And you certainly heard of James
Yes,
DeLay.
I was exaggerating.
Okay, because Kevin made a note that you heard of him. He had a great week too, 166 yards and 3 TDs against the Forest.
Teely Ryan, I can say wasn't aware of him either.
Right, 216 yards versus Munster.
Yeah, and Drain had a lot of opportunities offensively and didn't get a lot to show for some of it because turnovers were a huge
Yes,
factor last
it
week.
was.
We saw Michigan City fumble deep inside Valpo territory on the rewind. Turnovers were a big deal on Friday night with the bad weather. We might have some bad weather again tomorrow night. How about the Little Five for this week in Northwest Indiana high school football? The Wildcats,
Hanover
yeah.
Staying on top, 4-0. Look at North Newton. What a
I
nice
like it.
start that they've had.
They have
You
had
know,
an excellent
3-1.
start. Beat South Newton, have played well.
Wheeler, Knox, and Rensselaer follow up.
You know, Knox is getting the job done.
yes,
right
they
now.
do. Yes, they do. Yes, they
Couple
are.
impressive wins.
They've got a very big one this week.
They were 6-6 a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Rensselaer in very big tomorrow night against
Yes,
West Lafayette.
West Lafayette. That's right.
Yeah, definitely a huge matchup for them. How about the only poll that matters, folks? It is the PFR Top 10, the big poll. Where are you at on Thursday night? That's the big question. Munster, after the 0-2 start, they are back in the poll.
Yes, they are. 2-2 now. They're playing very well at this particular point. Hobart had a nice win, 29-7 over KV.
Hobart should be moving up, Wayne.
Yep.
Their only loss is to LaPorte.
I know. Chesterton is 2-2. Portage, Crown Point, all 2-2. Michigan City's going to have another test at Maryville this week. Now
Big
we'll
test.
really see how they can bounce back, how they react to last week's shutout. And Valpo, big game with Chesterton, neighborhood rival.
Michigan City and Hobart fans are wondering, how could Whiting be ranked ahead of us?
They're
schedule we've played.
undefeated.
With
They
the-
are number one in the state of Indiana in Class 2A. I
Maryville?
would think that, you know, Maryville and LaPorte better keep their game going because Whiting is moving.
All right, and the number one team in St. John to take on LC LaPorte.
Wow. This is a big game for LaPorte. I think that, you know, they're on the road, but boy, they handled Chesterton 42-7 or something.
Right.
Their offense, in an age of passing the ball, you know, running the spread outs, here's a team that looks you in the eye and just pounds the ball
Well, you know,
at you.
it's strange to sit there and look at this matchup between LaPorte and Lake Central and wonder if Lake Central can be competitive with LaPorte.
Yeah, I know. Lake
know.
Central has, go ahead. The Lake Central has the receivers. You know, Benson is number 2 in the area. Atkins is an outstanding receiver for them. And their quarterback is young, but he can play. Now, can they stop LaPorte's offense?
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
That's right.
That's going to be tough because nobody really has stopped them at all this year. All right, the big game, the big matchup of the week, it's coming up next after this timeout on PFR.
For more information on everything Prep football, visit us on Facebook or on Twitter at PFR Sports.
All right, there's a lot of big games tomorrow night,
There really is.
but there's one that a lot of folks would say is above the rest. It's the Battle of Porter County, one of the great rivalry games.
That's right.
Valpo and Chesterton tomorrow night, Wayne.
And both teams, you know, are known for their defense in the past years. Valpo's really stepped up this year. Now, Chesterton has to find an offense.
Yes, they have to find consistency on offense. They've tried different quarterbacks. They really haven't been able to sustain anything offensively. When we talk about the Crown Point pick, I think you've seen Crown Point find an offensive identity.
Yes.
It took them a week or so. With Gomez in the running game and Grayson Leak has become, to give them some kind of passing game. I still think Chesterton is still looking for that offensive identity. What are they going to hang their hat on offensively?
That's right. And LaPorte's defense is very, very good.
Right.
So you're going to have to make sure that you do not turn the ball over, Chesterton. And Chesterton's going to have to find a way to stop that running game. And that starts with the offensive line. I mean, LaPorte's offensive line has opened up holes for those running backs like crazy.
All right, our guy Tommy Williams found some time in his busy schedule to go check out the rivalry, the big matchup, Chesterton and Valpo.
We've got the coach of Chesterton, Mark Peterson, joining us right now. And, Coach, first off, you were shorthanded in your loss to LaPorte last week. How tough was that going into that matchup? And, of course, the turnovers didn't help either.
Right, yeah. You know, you look at that turnover ratio. That's going to be a major key component every week in and week out. And to turn the ball over as many times as we did definitely was a major factor for us last week. The weather didn't help, but, you know, LaPorte was playing in the same conditions that we were. So
And here's why they pay you the big bucks, because now you got to bounce back from Friday and go up against a Valparaiso team that's rolling right now.
yeah, you know, Coach Coyle's doing a great job. Those kids are really playing hard. They're playing inspired football and kind of the old school Valpo teams of the past, you know, playing good, hard, smash mouth football. They do some really nice things on offense. They run some wildcat sets there where they're able to get the ball in running backs' hands and get some great blocks in the interior. Defensively, they show you a number of different looks. They're going to move their fronts around a little bit, and you know, we're going to just really be prepared.
Let me squeeze a couple more questions in for you before we let you get back to practice. And first off, are you set on a quarterback for Friday? Because again, guess you played 3 last week against LaPorte.
We've been playing 2 or 3 every week, I think, and right now we have a couple of kids that are going to take real consistent reps for us. We have a couple of kids that do some things really well, and then they don't do a couple of things really well, and so that's really us as coaches. That's on us to make sure that we can continue to improve those kids and their weaknesses, and that's something that we've been working on, and we'll continue to work on through the remainder of the way here to give ourselves a chance to win football games.
Ironically, Valparaiso started that way. They had a 3-quarterback situation. Now it looks like they're down to 1, and that one has had himself a pretty good last couple of weeks.
He has. He's done some really nice things, throwing the ball downfield, but also on spot receiving on routes. And so, you start to get that consistency, and we had that in the last couple of years ourselves. So I can appreciate that. I know it's a relief offensively to not have to worry about who's going to be in that spot and worry about what might or might not transpire. So, to their credit, they've started to settle themselves in, and that's part of our youth, I think, and what we're looking at too is people in that position. We've got to be able to step in, step up, and we're going to keep coaching them up to become the best that they possibly can.
Knock them out on Friday.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Tommy. It's always great to see you, and thanks so much for everything you guys do in our coverage.
We appreciate you, Coach.
You bet.
All righty, now we make the trip out to Valparaiso to see the other side of the story of Valparaiso versus Chesterton. Okay, let's say we take a look at the Valparaiso side of the story right now with their head coach, David Coyle. And, Coach, first off, you come in with a little momentum. How important is that for this matchup coming up on Friday?
Well, it was huge after losing to a great LaPorte football team and losing in the fashion which we did in the last seconds of the game, and they go for 2, which was a gutsy call. And I mean, they did a great job with that. And then having to go over to Michigan City with a team that was undefeated, they're doing a great job turning that program around, and they're very competitive. We were very fortunate to walk out of there with a Duneland Conference win. I was proud of our kids and how hard they worked and what they put in last week to make sure that they could still stay competitive for this week.
Another big Duneland Conference game coming up against Chesterton. How do you attack the Trojans this week?
Well, we got to take 1 week at a time, first of all, and it is Trojans, so we throw the records out. There is nothing about pass. Everybody's 0-0, and it's always a great football game when we play them. And right now we have to work on defensively, just making sure that we do our assignments. It's a little bit of assignment football, and offensively play within our means. Make sure that we're doing what we can do, and make sure that the things that we're doing, we're capable of doing every Friday night and doing well. And the specials, tightening them up. We missed Jared Smolar, obviously, being gone, and was a big part of ours. But I think our kids right now in the specials are doing a real nice job. Lucas White had a great week last week. We look for him to continue to do some things for us in the future.
From a confidence standpoint, your football team has to be right on top of the world after what happened last week against the Michigan City team that was pretty impressive their first few weeks of the season.
I think that our kids are smart enough to understand it's week by week. Any enjoyment we had, we got to enjoy it on the bus ride home Friday, Saturday. We quickly knew what our attention was turned to, and that's what we've been doing and our focus has been. It was sort of our focus last year, so these guys are very familiar with what it's like to lose an early Duneland game and then fight like crazy to get back into the race. So that's one thing that I have to say is an advantage to us, is being able to reflect, focus, and get started with it next week.
What's your biggest concern about Chesterton come Friday?
Well, I got a lot of concerns with Chesterton, obviously, as they come over. It brings a crosstown rival that's been going on here for the last 10 years. And as I said earlier in the interview, we throw the records out to the side. It's going to be who's ready to rock and roll and who's able to establish their game plan first and get out of that mental excitement and get down to playing football. That will be the main focus here. So I'd like to believe that our guys have that situation under control with where they've been and what they've been doing. But again, we're dealing with 15 to 17-year-old kids, and sometimes that's hard to explain, but right now they're doing very well. I'm very proud of them.
Good luck on Friday.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, and that takes care of business from Valparaiso. Let's say we go back to the studio. Wayne, Joe, big matchup coming up on Friday. Looking forward to hear what your predictions are.
All right, you can hear Tommy on Lakeshore Game Night on 89.1 FM tomorrow night.
This is going to be a game of the option offense versus Valpo's defense.
Yeah. And Chesterton's going to need to know where Mr. Brzezicki is on both sides of the ball.
That's right. Lechtenberger, too. And
He's
LaFew.
quietly had a great year, Lichtenberg.
And LaFew has thrown the ball very well.
Yes, he has.
Tough matchup.
He's not getting a lot of love on the radio, I heard, but he's playing very well. Valpo's offense is coming on. Their defense had a great bounce-back performance. Chesterton's got to get consistent offensively. I think that's the big factor. But as Coach Coyle said, this is a rivalry game. And that's what's got to scare you if you're Valpo, because often in rivalry games, the best team doesn't always win.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that'll
You
be
gotta
big.
come to play.
Valpo offensive line is improving, coming together. They're starting to move the ball effectively. Again, weather could be a factor tomorrow night.
That's right.
So if the ball's wet or if there's some bad weather, definitely could have an effect on the game if there's turnovers from either team, like there was last week in Northwest Indiana. All right, I think you're going to go with the chalk in this one, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wayne, you need to step out and pick a few upsets once in a while.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
I don't understand it. We'll see your pick here shortly, but it's time for all the picks. First, there's your pick last week. Of course,
Yep.
I was 1-2?
1-2 last week.
Okay.
And,
You're still
I was
64%.
pretty good last week. I'm
mired
starting to
in
get the rhythm.
You're
you know?
still mired in a sub 70% performance. But
I got the
time now
rhythm
for,
now.
for Wayne's World.
I'm ready.
You might have a good week this week. There's some decisively one-sided matchups, I think. But as we've seen every week,
Right.
surprises abound, boy.
That's what the parity is in the region. I
Yeah.
mean, you just can't, there are a lot of games we could pick the other way if we
Right.
had to.
Right. I'll point
So-
out a few of those.
Yeah, the issue will. I like LaPorte at Lake Central, and I like Crown Point over Chesterton.
Yeah, and the checkmark
Or
took a
over
long look.
Portage.
The checkmark took a long look at Portage.
Yeah.
Because this is right in their wheelhouse.
Yes, it is.
They were very close to winning 3 in a row in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Crown Point's been solid defensively. Their offense is coming together. Maceo's been outstanding at quarterback for Portage. They're starting to believe. So this could go either way.
Yeah, it really could. I had two factors for that one. Crown Point's at home, and then number two, they put, Lake Central only scored 3 points on them last week.
All right,
All right.
the checkmark also looked at this one, Wayne.
This one.
Michigan City did not have a good week in the weather last Friday night.
And that does not bode well for Michigan City's
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow
so
night.
the checkmark is staying away.
Okay, but I did too. I had a long look at this one, but I figured, hey, Maryville's at home, and they play fairly well at home. So, and you get two offenses. This may be a 50-point game
It's
here.
It's a little off the field matchup going on here too.
All right.
Folks might
Yes, it
be
is.
able to decide what that is. But
I do like.
Go ahead.
I do like Valpo over Chesterton at Valpo.
I think if the weather's dry tomorrow, the checkmark would have gone for Michigan City.
Really?
But I don't like the chance for rain.
Right.
So I'm staying away from that game. All right. I like Hobart as well tomorrow night, Wayne.
Yeah,
They're
and
looking good.
I think Griffith, we said it earlier, Griffith played really well last week, and I think they're kind of getting on a roll and feeling comfortable. Their quarterback, Winston, has been just outstanding.
And Drain's got a shot. They had missed opportunities last week.
Oh, yeah. I like Lowell to bounce back from a very difficult week. And at Highland, though, and certainly the Munster-Morton game, I think Munster is going to win that one. I like East Chicago. I like Gavitt, and I like West Side at Hammond.
The checkmark's still not out. It's got to come out soon.
Yes, there it is. You like the Wildcats?
I'm going with the Purple Gang. That's a team
Yeah.
that won 10 games last year. They had low numbers out.
That's
School's
the
been
problem.
going on for 3 or 4 weeks. Coaches tend to recruit better when school's going on.
I think Sagarin puts Westside up there a little higher than Hammond.
Yeah, what's he know? I like Hammond. I like Hammond tomorrow night. I think they've been improving steadily, so the checkmark goes there.
I like Calumet over Bishop Knoll.
Checkmark was considering this game. Knoll hasn't won a game in a couple years.
Yep.
Might have a shot tomorrow night.
Hanover to stay undefeated, and I like South Central.
Okay.
Whiting over Lake Station, but Lake Station has played very well.
Yes,
in
they
games.
have. Whiting, they're number 3 in the polls, so that's a no-brainer, right?
Boy, I really struggle with this next one. I really struggle with.
You were trying
Wheeler,
to
North
bait me into
Newton.
picking that. I know exactly what
I
you
think
were
you
doing.
should go with the red check mark with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't born yesterday, pal. Staying away from the Bearcats
Winnemac
there.
and North Judson, over North Judson.
All right. You didn't go for Rensselaer. in this
No,
one,
I think West Lafayette is really very good. But the Knox John Glenn, now not many people know about John Glenn. They usually have a very strong program, which they do this year.
He was a great
And
astronaut.
it's at John Glenn.
Don't know about their football team, but he was a great astronaut.
Yes, he was.
And there's the check mark, Wayne.
Uh-oh. You're looking for-
Disrespecting my Knox Redskins once again.
You're knocking the astronaut down into the Earth's atmosphere. I'm taking Glenn here. They're a powerful team. They are
Redskins, you're disrespecting their defense. 2 shutouts this season. Their defense has been outstanding all season long. You know, a lot of folks don't realize it. They were 6-6 a year ago.
Yes, that's
Knox
true.
football program is
Right.
coming back under Coach Hendricks. I like them tomorrow night.
They're still in our little fight.
Yes,
There's
they
no
are.
doubt about it. Glenn
You
is-
like Bowman over
I do.
Roosevelt.
I do.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow night live at 10:30 on Lakeshore Public Television for PFR Scoreboard. Good night.
Who is the dark afraid of? His name is Tim. When you report a power outage, Tim and linemen like him respond to the call. Text OUT to 444-111 to report an outage. With your cell phone, when the power's out, power is still in your hands. Support for PFR and PFR Scoreboard is provided by Geminis, partnering for the future. Captioning for PFR and PFR Scoreboard is provided by Voice to Print Captioning, LLC. Wardrobe for PFR and PFR Scoreboard provided by Gosser Corporate Sales Incorporated. Custom embroidery, screen, and digital printing. Further support provided by Fahrenheit 212 Restaurant and Bar.